Hey everyone, new place, new setup. Check this out. It looks like I actually review books now. So, without further ado, let's review some books. In search of inspiration for his writing project, Tony decides to pursue the mystery of the high-scoring gamer in the Pizzaplex's arcade machines who only goes by GGY. But the deeper he goes, the more he realizes that GGY is not just an enigma, but also a potential threat. Can Tony climb out of the hole he dug himself into? Or will the end of the trail find him first? So yeah, we've got another one of these tales that's not really horror, but more a detective story with a somewhat ominous edge. They've been hit or miss in the past, mostly contingent on how they end. Felix. The distinction here is that if you know anything about Security Breach, you already know who GGY most likely is. But in the context of this Fazbook, it actually kind of works, because instead of a mystery about the identity of GGY, it's more of a character study about Gregory, adding shades of gray to him that otherwise did not come out in the game. According to this story, Gregory is some kind of sociopathic, computer hacking genius who's tampered with not only the arcade machines but the animatronics themselves. Wow, talk about supplementary material. But of course this is all contingent on whether or not you think the tales from the Pizzaplex are canon. However, we have something that we didn't have with the Fazbear Frights. We have confirmation from Scholastic themselves that the tales of the Pizzaplex are indeed set in the same universe as the new and upcoming FNAF games. You know, I don't typically lore dive on this channel. I think my understanding of FNAF is pretty solid, but there are still some things I'd rather outsource to someone who knows better. Excuse me.
The light, it burns!
Holy crap, a talking sandwich. Oh, I mean, hey Sandwichly.
Nick, what the hell? Why did you kidnap me and put me in your fridge?
Firstly, it's not kidnapping if you're a sandwich. It's larceny. Secondly, it's so you can discuss deep FNAF lore on command.
What? So you basically just turned me into a slave for FNAF content.
Aren't we all slaves for FNAF content?
Okay, good point.
So, what can you tell me about how the story GGY connects to Security Breach?
You think you got like an hour?
I have literally 1 minute.
Oh shoot, okay. Since Nick is way too lazy to learn the FNAF lore, do not worry, because I got you. GGY's importance lies in the fact that it confirms Gregory is Patient 46. Patient 46 is the other individual who has their therapy sessions recorded like how Vanessa's are. Many have tried guessing who Patient 46 is, and the prevailing theory was that it was Gregory when he was possessed by Glitchtrap. There's a small connection here when we see that GGY has the pen name of Dr. Rabbit, but a more solid connection would be the fact that GGY lures the counselors into the Pizzaplex, and within Security Breach, we see that Patient 46 lures the counselors or removes them from the equation murders. Who knows? But this happens to any therapist or therapists who ask Vanessa specifically about any conversations or interactions with Glitchtrap. A bonus connection is that Patient 46 is described as being a child. They're described as being small, similar to how Gregory is indeed a child and small. Now this story might be a rare bone from Scott Cawthon and Steel Wool, letting us in on some mysteries that we have not been able to solve. Now what's changed between Gregory and Security Breach and what we see in GGY, we don't know, and hopefully Ruin explains it.
Thank you, Sandwichly. That will be all.
No, please, don't close the door.
So that's that. Anyway, how does the story work on its own? Well, it's not bad. Like I said, the horror element is downplayed in favor of mystery, but that part's still paced well and built up nicely. The twist is also interesting. Normally I'm really bad at predicting twists, but I was able to guess this one out of the gate. So Tony and his friends develop pen names for each other whenever they collaborate on writing assignments, and the moment that the story shied away from giving his other two friends names, I thought, one of them's Gregory. And wouldn't you know, I was right! Yeah! What do I win?
Nothing! Now get out!
What?
Get out! Everybody get out! You're spoiling me moments!
Yet despite me guessing the twist, the way it unfurls in the final pages is actually handled quite well. There's something else about this story that I want to talk about, and that's its use of the singular they. From what I can gather, the singular they has become a lot more prominent in writing in recent years. I remember like 10 or 15 years ago, back in school, whenever I had writing assignments, whenever I was referring to an unnamed individual of unspecified gender, I was told to pick he or she and stick with it. Seems times have changed, however. I can definitely see how use of the singular they streamlines writing in context. However, it does have potential to lead to confusion. For example, this passage here. What if the counselors had discovered what GGY was doing? And what if they'd known that they were onto them? And what if they'd lured them somehow to the Pizzaplex to do away with them? In context of the story, you would know that this is referring to GGY and the therapists. GGY suspects that the therapists are onto him, so he lures them to the Pizzaplex to finish them off. But otherwise, all those nondescript thems and theys read very messily. It can trip you up if you're not paying attention, so keep that in mind in your writing if you decide to use the singular they. Otherwise, there's nothing bad about this story. It's a good little mystery with a well-executed twist. Oh yeah, I almost forgot this passage. Tony had written a super awesome story based on a true-life mystery, and his friends had taken all the realism out of it. They transformed the story from something believable, and therefore creepily eerie, into something utterly bizarre, and therefore not the least bit disturbing. Why do I even bother making scripts? The jokes just write themselves. Anyway, next. Edwin, the old guy on the Fazbear board of directors, Fazboard, nice, has his job as a creative director effectively replaced by AI in the form of a computerized tree called the Storyteller. And as the Storyteller seems to be negatively affecting the animatronics in the Pizzaplex, Edwin digs in to find the cause, but instead discovers a terrible secret buried in its heart. This one is difficult to talk about because it's just a giant setup. It's all context for future stories, mostly the epilogues and presumably the upcoming Tiger Rock. Edwin has a tragic backstory involving his son. The Storyteller has a robotic tiger head at its heart. That thing reminds me of the Jaguar from Amazon Trail, which apparently triggers those traumatic memories. The Mimic's been around for decades, apparently, and its programming is in the Storyteller, and that's why all the animatronics are screwing up. What else can I say about this story? Well, the Storyteller's design, that being this psychedelic robot tree with a tiger's head in its heart, that's pretty creative, I guess. The story also addresses the broader conversation about AI replacing creative storytellers, which elicits high passions in myself. However, that's not the story's central theme. Instead, it focuses on world building and character moments. I do like how these stories seem to want to tie in with each other more and retain some continuity. It makes them seem more profound than the Fazbear Frights. However, it also would have been cool to see that idea expanded upon. That said, there are two things about this story that pissed me off. Thing number one, inspired? Who the fuck outside of TikTok says inspired? Two, there's two POVs in this story. One is from Edwin and the other is from corporate goon, Mr. Burton. Excuse me, Mr. Burrows. Wait, one sec. Okay, so the wiki says Mr. Burton and Mr. Burrows, but Mr. Burton's name only appears twice in this one section. Was he just some side character that I glossed over? He only appears smack in the middle of this conversation between Edwin and Mr. Burrows. No. No way they're that stupid. We've seen characters' names swapped before. But nothing like outright getting a character's name wrong. smack in the middle of dialogue. You know, they've done experiments with ants. They've found that ants can recognize patterns and change their behaviors based on the patterns they sense. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, co-authors, Scholastic, but these two words are different. Now, I mean, granted, they share the first three letters, but somehow I feel that even an ant could recognize that they are indeed different. What's lower than ants, Scholastic? Silverfish, pubic lice, parameciums? These books are written on the microbial level, for God's sake. Seriously, it's so fucking insulting. Seriously considering bringing the lawsuit back. It took me years to land a single publishing deal for a single book. Hell's Golf, by the way. That's my book. And yet, this shit is just allowed to slide from Scholastic, which, by the way, specializes in educational content. Technical errors aside, again, there's not much to say about this one. It's just context. It wasn't bad for what it was. Next. The epic conclusion of the Bobby Dots, the first Fazbook two-parter. When we left off, Abe had just learned from the Gen 2s that their programming is being messed up by the Gen 1s, physical robotic beings that live in the attic of his apartment, and their malevolence is all but confirmed when they seemingly attack him one night. He starts a relationship with a behavioral counselor named Sasha, and with their combined efforts they attempt to interface with the Gen 1s and discover the truth behind the madness. And together they find out that not only have the Gen 1s been trying to help Abe this whole time, hindered by their defectiveness, but the Gen 2s were actually trying to kill him all along. And the shocking reason why? AI supremacy! Seriously? You went with the most predictable, overused sci-fi trope in the history of science and fiction. Yeah, Bobby Dots, just go sit in the corner over there with Hal, Skynet, Ultron, Vicky, and Otto, and y'all can just talk about your big ideas or whatever. Get fucked. It's not even done in an interesting manner. The Gen 1s just exposition dump, and the Gen 2s are reduced to these screeching, glitching banshees who try to flood out the apartment when they've been outed. Which of course is now making me ask, why did this story of all story deserve the two-part treatment if it was just gonna end that poorly? I seriously thought they had something else planned for it, especially considering all the references to the Pizzaplex in part 1. Did it just become too long and they refused to change the ending or scrap it? At least things wrap up nicely. Abe and Sasha move into the apartment and together they vow to repair the Gen 1s. Hooray, I love happy endings where everything works out. Also, there's something on the back cover. Let's take a look at this. Oh, what? No way. That's the official concept art for the Bobby Dots? No! They look disgusting. They look like if Betty Boop birthed the bastard spawn of a gray alien and a My Little Pony. Unbelievable. Such a promising part 1 for such a letdown of a part 2. I hoped that there was something really cool that would justify its two-partedness. But in the world of Five Nights at Freddy's, hopes can often curdle into disappointment. Ooh! Anyway, let's hope the epilogue makes up for it. Man, the Mimic is just cleaning house. What is that, 5 down? Yeah, not much happens in this one. You've got some character moments, Adrian dies, but otherwise things are still moving along pretty slowly. Still, I'm intrigued of how the Mimic exactly connects with the rest of the Tales of the Pizzaplex. Already it's better incorporated into the main stories than the Fazbear Frights with Eleanor. And sure, these epilogues are taking their sweet time, but despite that, I remain optimistic. Anyway, see you all next time.